through some of the report, I think another real, very clear parallel is this idea of thinking in the long term, not in the short term, because a big part of current purchasing decisions are, okay, here are my 5, 6, 10 contractors offering to build a new school at this price, this price, this price, this price. And it's the rule of the game in procurement is that the lowest price wins. And in some ways this is important because there needs to be clear rules. Otherwise there can be a lot of corruption. So low price is a rule. However, I think our project focuses on, and all of our projects indeed focus on making this timeline much longer. Thinking, okay, if you build a school with kind of crappy materials that have been imported from really far, and it's probably going to fall apart in 3 years, or we'll need really extensive maintenance to keep it running, then you need to maybe think about those as all being part of the cost when you're commissioning someone to build the school. So this is sort of the idea that, in fact, if you look at the asset being whatever product or service or infrastructure is being bought, if you're looking at this over sort of its life cycle, which is both buying it, using it, maintaining it, and then at the end, getting rid of it. So putting it back to its original parts and sending it off to recycling plants or deconstruction plants. How does it break down and how costly is that to do? So, often our biggest challenge in sustainable public procurement or green public procurement is the cost argument, because governments will say, as individuals will say, but it's too expensive. But really, part of the issue is that the framework we're looking through, the paradigm we're looking through, is a very short-term paradigm. Another synergy with the report is that, it sort of calls for best practice from around the world, and that's what we're all about, is learning from the best sort of European players, the best Asian players, learning what's happening really, and trying to share that information to a wide audience. Another explicit goal in the NDP report was this sort of movement towards a more service-oriented economy. And that's something that we're working on quite a lot right now in our existing work, is this idea that governments can procure services sometimes instead of products. So, and this is very much about being able to define what you need. And again, this sort of division between what we need and what we want. So we kind of advocate that when a government goes to purchase something, first they take a very, very close look at exactly what it is they need. And this exercise we did this morning is very helpful, because that was the exact type of approach that we're thinking about in terms of what is the ideal solution. So say the problem is traffic congestion. What do we want to do? We want less traffic. So if we can think about a government, instead of saying, we're going to construct a road that goes around the outside of the city to prevent traffic from the inside. But maybe if they just say to the market, we want less traffic, maybe the market will actually be able to come back, and this is kind of newer thinking, but the market will be able to come back and say, well, we could offer you this new tram system that we've implemented somewhere else that cuts right through the center of town and can take a capacity of so many people per minute, and maybe that could end up being a solution that they hadn't even thought about. So we're also very big on governments sort of being very open-minded to some of the private sector initiatives that are actually can really inspire a lot of efficiency. So that's a bit it for the connections with the NDP. I mean, I know you can't see this. So actually maybe it's better, because then you were just listening to me. But if you were interested in taking a little bit of a closer look, I have some printouts with this graphic on it. And essentially it's just drawing some closer parallels between the NDP model and our work. Yeah, I mean, maybe I'll just say one, for example, is again this idea of the needs. Human beings have certain needs for a sort of a basic, dignified life. And also, but governments are mandated to provide a certain level of service and product for the population, certainly in a democracy as well, to satisfy human needs. So the governments have a huge role in this identification of what our needs are. And so I think this is a close tie to GPP and what we're all about, because we're about this being procured in a more sustainable fashion. And then also this idea of the needs assessment. What do we actually need? You know, do we need to be so prescriptive, or can we be a bit more open-minded? Yeah, so I think, and then it goes on. I mean, certainly most of these principles are very key as well to green public procurement. Good governance, the fact that people can count on an accountable, transparent system where people understand why things are being bought on their behalf, all very important. And certainly, I think it's even more obvious when you think about responsible use of natural resources. We would really encourage the purchase of both products and services that are more energy efficient, water efficient, produce less waste, produce less greenhouse gases. So